My husband signed the divorce papers smirking, sure I'd crawl away after he cheated. In court the judge read my net worth out loud and his smile died. Wait, she's worth what? He stammered. I leaned in and said, that's your severance. What happened next? My husband signed the divorce papers like he was autographing a football, leaning back in his chair with that lazy smirk he used when he thought he had the upper hand. We were in the small courtroom in Kent County, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the kind that make everyone look tired and gray. He slid the pen across the table, clicked it shut and looked straight at me like he wanted me to flinch. Like he expected tears right there on the spot. I didn't give him any. My hands were folded in my lap, nails clean, knuckles white, face still. I'd learned how to sit still through years of nursing night shifts, through my dad's hospital stays, through my own panic attacks in grocery store parking lots when the bills stacked higher than the dashboard. Stillness was something I earned. Okay, the judge said, flipping through the file. She was in her 50s, tight bun, sharp glasses, no patience for drama. We're here to finalize dissolution. Before I approve, I'm going to read the financial statement into the record. My ex, he wasn't officially my ex yet, but he was already wearing the word, let out this short laugh under his breath. He was sure this part would hurt me. He told our friends I was a mess without him. He told his mistress I was basically broke. He told me during one of our last fights that I'd never survive on my own. Like I hadn't been surviving the whole time. The judge started listing numbers in a plain voice. House equity. Retirement accounts. Business valuation. Liquid savings. The total kept climbing. I watched my husband's smirk wobble, then freeze. When she read out my net worth, the room went so quiet I could hear the radiator ping. Wait, he blurted too loud like he forgot where he was. She's worth what? The judge looked up over her glasses. Mr. Harper, you will not interrupt again. He opened his mouth, then shut it. His face had gone this weird chalky color, the way drywall looks before you paint it. I leaned toward him just an inch, close enough for him to feel it without making a scene. Consider this your severance, I said softly. His eyes snapped to mine. For a second I saw the exact moment he understood he'd been playing checkers while I'd been quietly setting the board for something else. If you'd asked me 5 years ago if I'd ever land here, I would have said no. Back then I was just trying to keep the lights on and the pantry full. I was working as an ICU nurse at Spectrum, doing 12-hour shifts that turned into 16 if someone coded at the end. My feet hurt all the time. My back hurt worse. We were swimming in debt from his truck, his tools, credit cards we used for just this once things. New tires, a water heater, a weekend trip that was supposed to fix us. We both grew up in families where money meant safety and not having it meant shame. So we pretended we were fine. Marcus used to be different. That's the part people don't get when they ask why you stayed. He was funny. He was the guy who brought me Taco Bell at 2 a.m. when I was charting in half dead. He knew how to make a room lighter. He also knew how to make me smaller without raising his voice. It happened little by little. A comment about my weight when I was stressed eating. A joke about me being too serious when I asked him to stop buying stuff we didn't need. A shrug when I said I was exhausted, like that was my personal flaw. Then the layoffs hit. Construction slowed, his hours dried up, and he sat on the couch all day watching YouTube videos about men being disrespected. He started calling my job your little hospital thing, even though it paid our mortgage. When I got promoted to charge nurse, he acted proud in front of people and cold at home. I thought if I loved him harder he'd come back to me. Instead he started staying out late. First it was drinks with the guys. Then it was helping a friend with a remodel. I knew the signs because I'd seen them in patients' families. The strange sudden tenderness followed by distance, the phone turned face down, the showers right after coming home. When I found the earrings in his truck, small gold hoops not mine, I still asked him calmly because I wanted some other explanation to exist. He didn't even try that hard. You're being paranoid, he said. Maybe you should take a break. You've been kind of intense. That word stuck to me for weeks. Intense. Like wanting the truth was a character flaw. Like keeping a family afloat was me being dramatic. The real break came when my mom got sick last winter. Stage 3 colon cancer. Chemo every 2 weeks. Her insurance didn't cover half of what you'd think it should. I started picking up extra shifts and driving to her house in Wyoming, Michigan after work to sit with her, change her sheets, cook her bland little meals. Marcus came with me once, looked uncomfortable, then stopped coming at all. One night I came home from chemo day and found him asleep on the couch with his phone open on his chest. I wasn't trying to snoop. I was trying to plug the charger in. But there it was, a text thread lit up like a flare. Can't wait to see you again. She doesn't get you like I do. A selfie from a woman I'd never met, wearing my husband's sweatshirt. I didn't wake him. I stood there in the dark listening to him breathe and felt something in me go cold and steady. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone. I remember thinking very clearly that whatever love I had left was now mixed with something else. Not hatred. Clarity. The next morning I went to work, charted meds, held a dying man's hand, and then during my lunch break I called a divorce lawyer. The first one I met with was a middle-aged woman who didn't blink at my shaking hands. She slid a box of tissues across the desk and said, "Let's look at your full picture." That was when I learned the full picture wasn't what Marcus thought it was. 2 years earlier, when he was between jobs, I'd used my small inheritance from my aunt's estate to start a side business doing billing for clinics. It started with one doctor I knew from the hospital. Then a whole practice. I didn't tell Marcus every number because he mocked anything that wasn't his. But I kept growing it anyway. I reinvested. I opened an LLC. I paid taxes. Everything was in my name. He figured it was some little extra cash. He never asked to see the books. He never cared as long as I paid for dinner. When the lawyer said, "You're protected if we do this right," I felt guilty for being protected. Like I didn't deserve to win. That guilt didn't last. Not after Marcus started showing up late, smelling like someone else's perfume, then calling me crazy for noticing. Not after he tried to convince Mom I was working too much, when really I was working because he wasn't. I didn't hide my money to hurt him. I hid it because every time he touched our finances they burned. And because I knew someday I might need a door out. By the time he moved in with her I was already ready. I was exhausted but ready. I let him think he had me cornered. I let him run his mouth about how he'd take half. I even let his sister post some snide thing on Facebook about me being cold. I kept quiet because quiet is powerful when you're holding proof. Back in court, after the judge finished reading everything, she adjusted her papers and said, "Given the documentation, the business is premarital and solely owned. Asset division will reflect that. Mr. Harper, you will receive the agreed-upon settlement amount. We are done here." Marcus looked like someone had pulled the floor out from under him. Not because he loved me, because he loved control. Outside the courtroom he caught up to me by the vending machines. The hallway smelled like old coffee and winter coats. "You think you're smart now?" he said, voice low, eyes wild. "You think you just ruined me?" I looked at him, really looked, and saw a man who had spent years trying to make me feel smaller so he could feel big. I didn't feel scared of him anymore. I felt tired of him. "I didn't ruin you," I said. "You did that all on your own." He scoffed. "You're gonna regret this." "Maybe," I said. "But not the way you think." He stared at me like he wanted a fight. I didn't give him one. I walked past him out the sliding glass doors into a weak gray afternoon. Snow was coming down in wet flakes. My car was parked by a dirty snowbank. Nothing about the moment was pretty, but I felt lighter than I had in years. When I got home, Mom was sitting at my kitchen table in her scarf and big sweater, sipping tea like she owned the place because, in a way, she did. She'd moved in with me after her last round of chemo. She was thinner now, but her eyes were bright. "How'd it go?" she asked. I set my purse down and let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "It's done." She nodded once, then opened her arms. I walked into them without thinking. I hadn't let myself collapse in weeks, and when I did, it wasn't dramatic. It was quiet and deep. "I'm proud of you," she said into my hair. "Me too," I said, surprised to hear it and mean it. That night we ate leftover chili and watched a dumb baking show. I paid a medical bill online without my stomach twisting. I texted my best friend and told her I was free. She sent back about 20 confetti emojis and said she was bringing wine tomorrow. Before bed I stepped onto the back porch. The neighborhood was calm. A few houses had Christmas lights still up, blinking softly. Somewhere down the block a kid was laughing and the sound carried through the cold. I stood there in my worn socks, feeling the winter air in my lungs. I wasn't healed. I wasn't suddenly a new person. I still had debt, still had a business to run, still had a mom to care for and a heart that had taken a hard hit. But I'd crossed the line that mattered. I'd stopped begging someone to treat me right. I'd chosen myself without needing permission. In the dark I put my hand on my chest and felt my heartbeat steady and stubborn. It wasn't a big miracle. It was a small one. The kind you earn inch by inch in quiet rooms on long days by refusing to lie to yourself anymore. When I went back inside, Mom had left the porch light on for me. I turned it off, locked the door, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was waiting for the next blow. I felt like my life was mine again.